And welcome back to the weekly InSalt. This is
episode 281.
281.
Yeah. You're also Laura.
I know. Can we start over?
No.
No?
No,
Okay.
come on.
All
It's
right,
fine.
I'm
It's
Laura.
Cool. Yeah. Welcome.
Did I mess up?
No.
No?
You did just fine.
I did fine. Okay.
You just sounded really nervous.
I did sound nervous. Okay. I'm
got
over it now. So anyway, we're back. Episode 281. Laura, here with co-host, producer Wade.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of exhausted from the weekend, if I'm honest. Going out to Echo was really hot, tiring. I was towing Kurt's fat ass behind me on the paddleboard.
Dude, it was so
know.
nice.
I bet it was nice, and I'm so sore from it now.
I use muscles I didn't realize I hadn't used in a while. My shoulders are killing me, my back, but it was a great weekend.
Awesome
was
to
fun.
get the exercise,
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
because I feel like I don't do enough of that already, and I bet you that our guest today has some great tips on that.
I bet she does. I bet she does. And Kurt, I wanted to say hi too. We
Hi.
didn't say hi.
Hi,
How are
Laura.
you doing? So yeah, we have a great guest today. Super excited to have her join us. I've known her entire life.
Really?
Her entire life.
Okay.
Was at the hospital when she was born.
No shit.
Yeah. You know why?
Why?
Because she's my niece,
There you go. That'll happen.
Nicole Ristau. Are you there, hon?
I am. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Thank you guys for having me on here. I
We are.
There we go.
Oh, there
See,
we
already
go.
started it.
Yeah.
Phone call, as you can tell.
Yes,
we got to
it
get
is
back in.
Oh yeah. Forgot to mention that Nicole is in Denver. We're in Utah, so it is a phone interview.
I think she also mentioned that there's a storm going on right now, too, so we're doing our best. But
Take shelter if you need to, Nicole.
will. I promise. I will take shelter. I will. No.
Well, I am really excited to have you on the show because I find you and your story very inspiring. And even though I'm the elder, I guess you could say, I look up to you and the woman that you've grown into. And I think that you have a great story that you can share with a lot of people and hopefully motivate somebody that might be going through similar struggles.
That is, I like to say my pain is my purpose, and the struggles that I have gone through, I would like to help and encourage women and children, and even men too, right?
Yeah.
But that it doesn't matter, like, where you come from, what you've gone through, but, the struggle is real. It's really hard to be a fucking, and it's really hard to be a woman, and a single mom, an entrepreneur at the same time, and then really trying to do the right thing, right? And so the support that we need is so needed in this world, and the motivation that I want to give others comes from my heart because of the pain that I've gone through. I don't want anyone else. So I hope.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Or did we
No,
just miss the end? Okay. This is difficult because there's I think that we might be, noises from the background of the studio might be interrupting things, so we'll try to be super quiet.
Yeah.
But, I think you have a great outlook on just life in general because I think most people in their own head think that you're your own star in your movie, right? So you're self-critical. You don't think you're doing things right. I think we've all had that moment in life where it's like, what am I doing? Dude, I don't feel like I'm an adult. I don't feel like I'm doing the things I should be doing. I don't exercise enough or I don't eat right. Or you just, have problems with addiction or relationships or, friends and stuff. And so I think everybody kind of needs a person in their life to kind of let them know that this is pretty hard sometimes and it's okay.
Absolutely, and we all need help, right? I help women now, and I help coach kids as well. But I have my own coach. I have therapists, coaches, psychiatrists, you name it. I've been to treatment for addiction and trauma over 3.5 years ago, and they've been helping me ever since. So, humans are creatures that need people, and we need each other, and people need to see that life is hard, but it is possible too if you do the right things that are healthy for you, instead of getting in this like whirlwind of like addiction and eating unhealthy and not working out. Because ultimately the goal is to like love yourself internally, right? And like do what's best for your body. You are your architect of your body. No one else is going to do it for you but you. But you do need help. It's not something that can just be like done by yourself.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Maybe give us a little backstory about how you got to where you are now and how that struggle was to even say, hey, I need to speak my truth and live my real self because I've not. And that's when you went to rehab 3.5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, let's see, where is it? My childhood, I suppose. My parents got divorced at 5. And from there, you know, I was surrounded by a lot of partying. So there was like real no direction that I had from either parents. And you are your environment. So, and then at the age of 15, I found my older children's, so first of all, I have 4 kids. I have 3 teenagers, 17-year-old and twin daughters that are 15, and I have a baby that's 1-year-old. So I met my father, or my first children's father, at the age of 14, and he moved into my house at the age of 15. And I was actually on a very straight path. I was getting like straight A's. I was all conference soccer. I graduated 20th in high school. And then I met, you know, the boy, and kind of changed my whole perspective on life. And I kind of went down the dark road. And, you know, we started selling drugs. He lived with me. We didn't really have any parental guidance onto what we should do, for I have no idea why. And it was a very abusive environment. I've just been around abuse, like mental abuse, my whole life. And so it was like one abusive relationship after another. At the age of 8, I was sexually assaulted by someone close in my household, and I had panic attacks for 2 weeks, and I didn't know why. And it wasn't until like I had a relapse about 4 years ago, and I was doing EMDR therapy, and all these things started coming out, and I was molested back then. And during those panic attacks, I told myself that I wanted to change the world, and I wanted no child to go through the pain that I went through. And, you know, seeing your parents, you know, party and on drugs is the easiest thing to see. Also, you know, seeing their fighting and bickering was very difficult. And I had my cousins and then my brother, and we were all very, very close when we were younger. And it was just like a big party, like 5. And you're not supposed to be doing that at the age of 5, right?
Yeah.
No.
Kidding. And then I made like some promises to myself. So I wanted to change the world, and I told myself I never wanted to be like my parents. And so I wanted to be like the best mother possible to my kids. And that's what drives me. My children drive me every single day. I wanted to break like every generational curse. But unfortunately, it did lead me to drinking very heavily and being an alcoholic. So from there, I met my first children's father, and was in a very abusive relationship. I had my first son, my son at 21. I had DUIs right after I had him, and then I miscarried 5 months when I was in jail. I got pregnant again and miscarried that baby at 5 months. And then I got pregnant again with my twin daughters. And I partied here and there in my 20s, but I was like so mom, and I was being, there was a lot of abuse going on, and I was kind of stuck in my house. Children, and it was very hard to get out of. But at the age of 26, I decided I had enough after I was physically beaten. I said, children don't deserve that. And so I got out. And then I kept meeting like the same type of men. And I started doing therapy at the age of 30. And my therapist was like, you haven't been into an insane asylum yet? The amount of stuff you've gone through. And I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And here I am drinking, right? And doing cocaine and like partying. And I'm living like one of the best double lives. Like my kids don't know anything that, like none of the pain that I've gone through. And I am just being battered still constantly. And so I'm just drinking heavily. And then it was like at the age of 33, I was in a relationship with a guy who lived in a bar, or he went to the bar often. So it started up me partying even harder. And that's when my downfall all happened. And I ended up losing everything. I was actually in the process of opening up a nonprofit for children called Unplug, which stands for All You Need Is Patience, Love, Unity, and Gratitude. Because I really wanted to help children, and I wanted my dream was to help children, and I didn't want them to go through this pain. But here I am suffering and suffocating myself with alcohol and not even dealing with any of my traumas at all. And then, so I was told to open up a thrift store for my for-profit, and I did that. And I ended up losing everything and then becoming homeless, living in my store for 6 months. And that was a very humbling experience. There was months I didn't have water. I was living off McDonald's and alcohol. And it was like the first time that I was ever away from my children. And it really sucked, but it was so freeing at the same time. There's a lot of psychology behind it, how it actually freed me from a lot of the people that were harming me and hurting me. So on March 17th, it was March 17th, 2019, I decided I needed to get sober. I shut my store down and I went to sober living. I got sober for 9 months and relapsed. And in the store, when I detoxed, the detox was so harsh. Like I had my cat laying on my heart to keep it beating, because I don't know if anyone knows, but like withdrawals from alcohol can kill you. Like benzos and alcohol can kill you. And you need to be in a hospital to detox from alcohol. And any person that I talk to now, I make sure that they're in a hospital. But it was crazy. I was hallucinating all these demons. My heart was like stopping and going and stopping, and like I'm sweating, and it was so intense. But so then I was 9 months sober, I was sober living, and I was getting back on my feet, and I started doing property management. And then I relapsed at 9 months. There was a lot of, I tend to put myself in stupid situations back with abusive people. And I finally think I've learned my lesson after this roundabout. But anyways, I was doing a EMDR therapy and a lot of things were popping out. And I didn't think I was an alcoholic. I had never really done like intensive therapy at that time.
So Nicole, tell us about that therapy. What does that stand for?
EMDR therapy.
Yeah.
I don't know that off the top of my I was made patient.
Well, what exactly did they do for you in that therapy?
So what you do basically, it's like eye movement. It moves your eyes around. I don't know how to even explain this. This one caught me off guard. Sorry. So you go in a room and they start like talking to you, and it's like with this eye movement. I don't even know how to talk about this. I only did it a couple times, and it like opened up some major things. It's like you get in touch with your body, and it opens up brainwaves of where things that you blacked out as a child. So like I dissociated a lot of things when I was a kid, and I don't remember a lot of things. And so it just opens up gateways of your past.
So during this whole time, I mean, I know you're not finished with the story yet, but just to go back to when your store closed and things like that, do you think that was like the rock bottom point, or do you think that there was a point that stuck out in your mind that kind of helped you to be like, okay, I really need to make a change and get that courage to do that?
I definitely think that was one of my rock bottoms. Most definitely was my rock bottom. Like I was making over 6 figures the year before I became homeless and lost everything, right? And it like I literally lost everything, including my children. So I was like in a mental psychosis, I guess you can say. And it literally, like, I just didn't care about anything. And it sucks to not care about that. And I was like slowly killing myself by drinking. And here I am, like, still opening up a store and trying to open up a nonprofit. And I'm homeless living in my store. And not a lot of people knew about that. And I don't know. It was very eye-opening to how much people actually go through being homeless. And even though I did have shelter, right, I was like clothing all these homeless people around me, and all these people would come in and ask like, hey, can I just have this shirt? Because it was like literally during the winter time. And I was like hanging out with all these homeless people until like midnight. It was just so crazy, the whole experience in itself. But I really felt like I had to go something like that to like really be able to help people in such desperate like need, I guess.
Yeah, and it sounds like you going through all of that stuff has kind of empowered you to do kind of what you do now. So you go to rehab, and you kind of, I think you talked about that, and then you said that you did relapse a little bit later, but you use all of those past experiences in what you do now as lessons that you've learned to try and help people achieve something better that they might not see or be in your same situation and I think you have a company now that does that. Is that right, Laura?
Yeah. So I'm kind of still structuring it all. It's a coaching business right now, and it's called Elevate Wellness for life coaching. And it's under like Nicole Ristau life coaching as well. And I originally was going to do 333 coaching because mind, body, and soul. Like when I was in the store, I saw 333 all the time, and it was an angel number, and I still continuously see it. And everything about like you have to shift your mind, body, and soul in order to like actually create a better life that you're living, right? And a lot of people don't realize how toxic their behaviors are on a daily basis that is creating like the stress and chaos that's going on in their lives. And, you know, alcohol is a huge stressor. Like it's actually a depressant, and it's not good for you. I don't preach to people, don't drink, don't do this. I just know it's really bad for me. And if you have a problem, and there's people who just don't want to drink, right? I also work with like food addiction and people who are overweight and people who can't time manage correctly. And I just keep people accountable and really get into their psyche of like, where did this lack of self-love come from? Like, why are you not taking care of your body in the first place?
So, Nicole, you came to Utah, what was it, when you came to treatment here? A little over 3 years ago.
Yeah, so March 11th is my new sobriety date, March 11th, 2020. So I went to detox. I blew about 0.4, which is pretty much death. I don't really remember the last 5 days of my drinking. I was like, had bottles of vodka delivered to my house. I locked people out of my house that had changed the locks, and I was vomiting so much in detox. They almost rushed me to the hospital. I decided to stay there for 13 days. My bed didn't open up. I went to Ascend Recovery in Utah, and it was the best 2 months of, like, I am so grateful for that place. It truly changed my life. And I did a lot of there. And it was during COVID as well. And so I got sober during COVID. I flew out like the week before the whole world shut down. So I did not experience COVID at all. When people ask me like, oh, what'd you do with the shutdown? I'm like, I was up at 5:30 a.m. taking piss tests for drugs and doing like 9 hours of group therapy. And so I wasn't really just sitting around doing nothing. But I don't know, it kind of all aligned so well for me because I didn't miss anything with my children. And then I flew back to Denver at the end of May, and my daughter's birthday was May 25th, so I didn't miss that at all. So,
well, that's great. And I know that you talk a lot about that place and how instrumental it was in saving your life and putting your feet back on the right path in life. And it's led you to where you are now and helping other women and other people. Hats off to you. I'm so proud of you for what you've accomplished.
thank you.
And, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your group, Elevate Women, or Elevate Wellness for Women, right?
Yes.
And so what kind of programs do you offer out on your group? What's the most common things that women struggle with?
A lot of people struggle with time management, and they struggle with. I do get a lot of people in recovery actually who come to me, but then I get a lot of people too that have food addictions. A lot of people don't realize like their alcohol addiction is pretty similar to their food addiction. Your brain, food, sugar, and all the processed foods kind of have the same effect as alcohol, and you become addicted to it. It's obviously not, but it might be. The studies are showing now like it's becoming an epidemic because of the obesity rates and diabetics, that everyone is pre-diabetic. There's a lot of people that are dying with chronic illnesses just because of food. A lot of people come to me because they need someone who keeps them accountable. I work with people for their daily habits. Like I wake them up at 5 a.m. every day, and then get them to the gym and, get that me time in and really work on yourself and truly learn who you are, because most of us don't know who we are and what we want in life. And we're just out there being like a robot and being told what to do. And like, oh, this is healthy. And like, there's so many different, fads and diets. And I don't like to even call anything like this a diet. It's a lifestyle. Like, why don't we live a healthy lifestyle and what's best for you? And, and eating whole foods and cooking for yourself and taking that time, like to really give your body the nutrients that you truly need. And, taking out toxins that are life, like people pleasing and learning boundaries. And I have some people that deal with Al-Anon. which is the opposite of AA. So these are kind of like people that are the spouses of alcoholics. And there's a lot of codependency with that, right? And I've pretty much experienced both ends. And so I really just dive in and we just start talking. I do one-on-ones, and then I have a group program coming out for food addiction. I was going to start that August 1st, but I'm going to push it off to August 15th. And we're going to go over a book, and they're going to get daily workouts. I wake them up at 5 a.m. I am giving them a grocery list of what foods that they need to be eating. And we're going to dive into like how a lot of their childhood traumas caused their food addiction and why they eat the way they eat and why they're not, wanting to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I think that's awesome because I can't imagine the amount of work that is. I think about just doing that for myself, and I kind of laugh. I'm like, yeah, I have a hard time just doing that for myself, and you're doing it for a group of people. One question that I guess I thought of while you were talking about that was, is there any common piece of advice that you find yourself giving everybody? Like the first time that you talk to them, you're like, hey, these are some things that you can do right off the bat that will definitely improve your quality of life and focus a little bit more on yourself.
Yeah, I always say discipline is the highest form of self-love. So if you can't discipline yourself, you don't really have anything, right? Like if you can't really take care of who you are, other people are going to control you. And so taking care of your daily habits is going to control your life, and you'll be in control of that. So disciplining that and being intentional with what your day looks like is so important.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think that everybody kind of struggles with that a little bit, especially just getting that discipline back. Because I think a lot of times, like you've already talked about, you fall into these habits and maybe you don't even recognize it, and then later on you're like, how did I get here? And I know for me some things changed over a long period of time, and you just get those habits formed, and to get right out of them is difficult, but I think being disciplined to do that is a huge step in changing the way your mindset is.
There's a lot of science behind it too. Like your subconscious runs 95% of your life, and that's where your habits are formed, is in your subconscious. So you have to change your subconscious around, and that takes a lot of time, right? And most people don't have the motivation or drive to do it on their own, and that's why it takes a team to heal yourself. And I tell my girls that I talk to, I always suggest them getting therapists. Like, it's not just about me, helping them. Like, this is a group thing. Like, you need a bunch of people in your group to help you get back on your feet. A lot of, what your subconscious, you're just going to keep going back until you truly are disciplined enough to feed yourself healthy and work out daily.
I think we're going to take a short break.
You're the host.
Oh,
we
yeah.
can do whatever we want.
Nicole, we're going to take a short break. But then I'd love to hear more about, how you dealt with the demons in your childhood and, how hard that was. And then maybe, just talk to us a little bit more of that. But we'll be right back. And welcome back. We just took a quick break, and we're here with Nicole, and she's been sharing some pretty intense information with us about, her childhood and recovery and some of the life that she's changed in her life and how she struggled to get there. So I do have a question for you, Nicole. It is around learning to deal with childhood trauma, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. You and I have shared stories about that and some of my own struggles with my own childhood. So how did you overcome that? I mean, and you probably haven't yet. You probably deal with it every day. But what is the thing that helps you the most?
I would have to say forgiveness. I mean, there was a lot of anger I went through. So it's like a grieving process, right? And there's 5 stages in the grieving process. And I'm now to I just forgive, and I just like now send them love. And because I now realize like those people are traumatized too, right? And they're in a lot of pain. And so if you kind of change that perspective of like, and they don't know. And I mean, you do know like when you're an adult and you're like hurting other people, but a lot of people still have like a mentality of like, you know, when they're a teenager or whenever you began using some sort of substance, that's when your emotional intelligence really stops growing. And so you kind of just start thinking about like all the shit that you've gone through, like they're probably going through the same thing. And so now I just like, it's like a forgiveness, like, and just send them love. And like, I pray for them that they do get help, but now I just have boundaries, and I accept everything that's happened, and now I'm more grateful for it because now it truly can help me. It's given me the tools to help other people get out of situations that they're in.
And I imagine a big part of that is not looking for apologies, right? Because that's going to be hard. Like, you know, at what point do you give that up and realize that that's not really what it's about anyway?
Yeah, I think... Go ahead.
I think I gave that up a long time ago. I just realizing and recognizing the level of mental sickness that person is in.
Well, you know what?
I can't change anyone else. The only person I can change is myself. And so that's just focusing on me, you know what I mean, is something that really changed it all.
You know, it's nice for me to talk to you about your story and understand your background, because I think that a lot of times when somebody says, "Oh, I'm a life coach," it's got like a kind of a bad rap. They're like, "Oh, really? You're a life coach? Like, what? Sure, is that even a real profession?" Which, yeah, it is. But I think also your history and your background lends very well to help a lot of people, because I mean, you've been at the top, you've been at the bottom, and you've learned a lot from that. But have you ever had that happen before with anybody that you've talked to? They just don't take it seriously at first because they're like, life coach, really? Or do you think a lot of people are a little more open-minded?
I try to explain my story as much as I can, but that does come up. And you know, when they do question it, that's not the client I want anyways. Like, if you're going to question everything about me, I don't want you. Like, you're not ready to be healed or help yourself, because then I'm going to have to hold your hand and I'm going to have to micromanage you. And, like, it takes a willingness of you wanting to be better. And a lot of people do have to go down to the bottom, unfortunately, to get there and to recognize that. And there's so many coaches now coming out, and they, you know, just do courses. And I really try to teach based off of like what I've experienced and how I've actually changed it. Like, my daily habits is like what has helped me stay sober and, you know, become a healthier, better mom to my children, and to really learn about the insecurities of who I am, and you know what I mean, and to take the accountability of the shit I did, like, because I'm part of this equation too, right? Like, that's the biggest part, is like, holy, I caused a lot of this, and I'm the one who stayed in some toxic situations, and so I'm at fault as well. And so not putting the blame on anyone else but me, but still having compassion for myself, and like learning to just each day is a new day. Like, we don't have yesterday anymore, and we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. Like, we only really know what now is going to happen. And so being present in the moment and really focusing on that is really important.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times too, there's life coaches that just have like, I just want to say like a package deal, right? They've got this like template that they believe just helps everybody, and it sounds like you really take the time to understand who you're trying to help and why, and to make sure it's in the right moment, rather than like, I don't know, you see those like hacky people online that like, I've got the secret to life.
You
just
do
have
1,
to do
2, 3, 4, 5, and you're healed.
I definitely do not have the secret to life, and it's a very like, I wish.
Yeah.
Healing is a very personalized journey. Like, everyone's different, right? Like, everyone's body type's different. Every like footstep is different, and so you really have to take that into consideration. And so that's why I really like doing I have my one-on-ones are like way better for me, because I could really get in touch with who that person is and dive deep. I do have my first group course coming out, but that gives them a community of girls too, right? And we're all going to Zoom and talk. And so it really just depends on like where the person's at.
Yeah, I guess that's fair because, like you said, there's probably people who probably recognize that they're struggling a little bit but aren't ready for that change yet, or they just question it too much. And I imagine the one-on-ones too, you can get really intimate, and there's a lot of stories shared there that maybe they've never told anybody else, and so kind of letting that weight off their chest is just helpful in general, because I think everybody at the end of the day really needs a person they can just tell anything to.
Mm-hmm. Without judgment.
Yeah, because sometimes you're going to talk about things that are gross, or sometimes you're going to talk about things that you're really embarrassed about, but to just like let it out is kind of a freeing feeling at that point, even if it's just to, a random person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I become like really good friends with some of these girls too. Like it's, and the beautiful thing is too, is like, they help me too. And, I mean, I know I'm being paid as their life coach and, helping them in like their health and wellness and whatnot. But like seeing them grow, like just, it helps my heart. And like knowing like they're actually truly loving themselves is just it's a really beautiful thing to watch, because a lot of people truly don't love themselves and they don't accept who they are, and they in society it trains you to like, you need to be this and you need to be that, and like now as a woman you have to have a career and be a stay-home mom and like do all this stuff perfect. But then you can't be too skinny, you can't be too fat, and you can't even talk about it and this. And like, how about we just be healthy? Like, the fact of the matter is like 80% of the food you're eating is really unhealthy for you and causing a lot of mental illness. And then you're in toxic relationships. And you're not working out, and that's causing, chaos in your family life, and your kids are running like crazy. So, it's like, I know if I'm off, my kids are off.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that you're talking about everybody these days, it feels like you have to fill all these social roles and everything. Yeah. And so kind of wanted to ask what your opinion is on social media. I think that, it affects probably those negative feedback loops quite a bit.
For sure. I'm on social media quite a bit because it is a lot of part of my business. Yeah. And I think it's all about your intention behind it. And that's with everything in life. I have made it to where I don't really see half of the negative crap in this world. And my intention behind it is to really help and teach people, right? Yeah. Despite it is a lot of posting, and it is a lot of engagement. But at the end of the day, like, I put my phone on do not disturb, and I concentrate on my kids. And it's a matter of like really learning, and having priorities and disciplining yourself on, the time you have during social media, and then your children, and working out, and like scheduling your day out correctly.
You made me think of a question I want to ask both Kurt and Laura in the studio. Laura, I'll start with you. When is the first time that you think that you put your phone on Do Not Disturb? The last time that you've done
the last time I did?
Sorry, if I said first time, I meant last time.
I will turn, I do it every time we podcast, but yeah, for obvious reasons. But if I'm gone for the weekend.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Never like at night or anything, like on a daily basis?
So I'll silence my phone at night, and only calls that are like urgent, like my daughter, you know, obviously if there's an emergency, she can get through to me.
Okay. When's the last time that you've put it on Do Not Disturb?
Well, it's been a minute for me.
You also have a job that requires sometimes for you to be on call, so obviously you can't.
So my phone is set to go into Do Not Disturb, and when I say Do Not Disturb, it means just more from my work life.
Yeah.
And you know what bugs the hell out of me is when you're in a social setting and somebody's on their phone non-stop.
Yeah, like you go out to dinner with TikTok. Friends or something, and they're just on their phone the whole time.
Instagram, TikTok, and they're not even engaged with you.
TikTok, I think, is a unique element, too. We have a friend of ours, he's been on the show in the past, but he's like always on TikTok. Mm-hmm. I think you know who I'm talking about without even saying.
Always.
always on TikTok, and sometimes I'm like, man, like just put it down. Like you're killing your attention span. But who knows? I'm not
addictive.
Not a doctor, but I'm sure there is a lot of health benefits to be had from like not falling down the social media rabbit hole.
Yep.
And like you were saying, Nicole, that if you kind of like weed out some of the negative stuff of social media, you can find this part of the algorithm, we'll say, that gives you positive feedback loop and links you with things that are about building yourself rather than looking at things you wish you were.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people ask me all the time if I'm seeing all this other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And granted, I put myself in a little bubble, because all this negative, I mean, I do know what's going on in the world for the most part, but I don't watch the news and I don't participate in a lot of the bullshit that's going on because, quite frankly, who knows if it's even true. And so I'm just going to feed my own self and my kids like positive things that are going to help us like on a daily basis. Like if I needed to survive if like aliens took over, we can do that, you know? Like I don't need my phone to survive.
Yeah. So talk to me how hard of an adjustment was for your kids going through this too, because you weren't the only one going through it. Your family was.
Yep.
And, you know, how have you helped them with that? I'm sure, have they asked questions? Were you honest to a point with them?
I've always been completely honest with them, and we sit and talk all the time still. Unfortunately, there has been some anxiety that has grown from that, and all my kids have done. Well, my daughters are actually in therapy now. They're doing therapy for children that have been through addiction, like their parents been through addiction and trauma, and so it's kind of like a study that they're in. And I'm a part of it as well because there is effects. Like one of my daughters was very upset and mad at me. Like I was her like everything, right? And I just like disappeared. Like what the hell happened to my mom, you know? And they're seeing things now for what it is and what has actually happened to me. And like we have such a beautiful relationship of trust, and they just are so open with me, and they know I have like very strict rules on like drug use and alcohol use, and I know that they try them, but it's a matter of like, you know, give yourself some time like before you go down this party if you decide to or not. You know, you're still in high school, and it does mess up your brain. How about you just don't do it? That's what I'd really like. But I have to be realistic, right? I try to keep an open mind, and it's a very hard boundary, so that they don't shut off and stop talking to me, you know. But you know, I don't condone that kind of behavior in my house either. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a hard balance. You can't be hypocritical, but you want to be open. You want them to come to you with these things and talk to you about it, you know, so they're educated before they make their own decisions. But it's hard being a teenager.
Oh, I can't even, like, that's a whole nother podcast.
Especially teenage girls.
Oh, geez.
That are twins.
I'm just blown away. Like, and some days I'm like, I don't know if I'm meant to be like a teenager mom. Like, this is insane. You know, the emotions that are going up and down, and the phones, right? Like, they're literally, their life was born on, like, that's all they know. And my kids didn't even get a phone until they're like 10, but still, this is what the generation and evolution is coming to, right? And I see like the attention span and what it's doing to them, and we have conversations about that and we talk about it, but you know, their brains are still growing, and so their priorities are not, you know, like about sleeping and eating healthy and, you know, doing what's best for them. It's about, you know, everything, I don't know, boys.
Yeah, I was going to say boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching something on, I think it was just like a video on TikTok or something. Excuse me. There were like a compilation of children who were sleeping, but pretending they were still flipping through a phone, like swiping and tapping apps and stuff. And I'm like,
Really?
Could you imagine having a dream as a kid, but you thought you were on your phone, or like you fell asleep with the phone and you still just kept doing those muscle memory things? Like when we were kids, my mom didn't want me in the house, you know? She's
No,
like,
we
go
weren't allowed
play.
back.
Go play with your friends. Don't
Till
come
the
back till
street
the
lights
street
came
lights
on.
come on. Yeah.
I am pretty blessed with my kids. Like, they play competitive soccer, and then my son is a musician, so they do have other priorities in their life, which makes it, they're not constantly on their phones or on like video games or whatnot. So, I talk to them, and I can only be an example for them, right? And show them what good habits are. At the end of the day, eventually they will come back. Apparently they said, like, I don't know, in their mid-20s, your teenagers come back, maybe.
That's what I did when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I left, lived with my family until I was 18. Was like, I know it all. I'm moving out. And then, the world slapped me in the face for a couple of years. And then I realized that I wanted to go to college and came back, lived with my parents again, and totally had a different respect for them, just because you don't realize how much just behind the scenes work your parents did, or at least I didn't until I was gone. And then it's like, oh, got to pay my car payment and car insurance.
There's no groceries in my fridge. How did those get in
I'm
there?
kind of getting sick of ramen. I actually have to go shopping.
I will never get sick of ramen.
True.
I would, yeah. I mean, I do. I'm trying to teach them about like the whole concept of money as well, because it's not really taught in school. And they have bank accounts, and they see like their spending habits on like food, and I'm like, look at like this is where'd your money go? I don't know, your food, right?
Yep.
And so they're like learning these basic concepts now, which is nice, instead of like later on. And they're asking questions about like what interest is and mortgages and, like rent and all that. Like, you don't get taught any of that in high school. Like, you kind of just throw them to the wolves, and you're like, hey, figure it all out, because that's what society does to you. And they expect you to know it all.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
And and then they throw, when you're in your early 20s, and then like everyone's drinking, and then, so you're partying and you want to be part of the cool crowd, and, you have all these bills, and you have to go to college, and like things stack up, and like our economy like is not the easiest to live in nowadays. And so they really need to be taught, right? Some healthy, like disciplined habits.
I think when I was in like middle school or just starting in high school, they taught me how to write checks, checks, like a paper check. And then right when we graduated, it was like, no, everybody's got a debit card.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to write a check.
The funny thing about writing checks is you always think they're going to cash,
Yeah.
So you don't want to write checks unless you have money.
Yeah, that's true, because you don't want them to bounce.
Right.
Exactly. And so like teaching them, it's like a whole process, right? And like, so some of the girls that I work with too, like we dive into their money habits, because a lot of people don't have healthy money habits. And, but it goes into their brain of like, what were they like when you were growing up? Like, what did you really learn? Like, did you have like poverty? Were you growing up in poverty? Like, did your parents hate money? And, there's an energy to it all. You can't hate money. We need money, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's true.
So you might want to just change that around. Like, stop hating it, first of all.
Just use it wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then learn how to budget it. And it all comes down to discipline, and learning like these simple disciplined like daily habits is like the key to what my program is just simplify your life. Like, wake up on time. Your sleep habits are so important. If your circadian rhythm gets all whacked out, you more likely are depressed and have anxiety. So go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time.
Kurt, you got that one on lock, man. Your Kurt's circadian rhythm is like anytime he's not working, he's sleeping.
Yeah. How it happened.
That's not true.
That's not exactly true, but I like to give him crap about it. He loves naps. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I love naps too.
If I had that many kids running around my house, I'd probably love naps too. Honestly, you seem like you got your hands full.
My 1-year-old just started sleeping through the night, and I
Nice.
breastfed her until like last week was my last week. She actually bit my nipple like twice, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're done."
You're like, I'm done with this.
Because I planned a year, right? And like this was no. But yeah, no, it's important. And if I don't get my sleep, man, I am not. I don't function well. But then my anxiety starts rising really high, and things just start getting out of whack. And so it's like really important. It's just important for me to teach my children what is best for me. Like if I showed like how much I love myself, then they hopefully will learn by example. And after the teenage, like these years, they'll be like, hey, get back into these like habits of really loving themselves. And because it really starts with the parents, and like teaching your kids how to eat healthy and working out. And if you're not working out or eating healthy, your kids aren't either.
Yeah.
And you're so why not? Why don't you want to do that is the question.
Yeah. I am so proud of you. Like, I just wanted to say that on air because I've, like I said, I've known you since you were born and I've seen your struggles, and I just am so proud of where you have come, and you're a fine example. You're a fine mother, and I'm just really, really happy with what you're doing with your life.
Really inspiring too to just hear like all the troubles that you've been through, and then to hear you have such a great attitude, because it would be really easy in a lot of those situations to just hate the world. It's the world, like blame other people or blame other things, and to hear that you're like, no, I'm really in tune with myself, and I did make those changes, and I do feel the differences from that. It's really inspiring to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've never really had that hate. Like, my like higher power is love. And I mean, I do believe in God, and my God is love, and it's always been that way. And I don't know if it's like my dissociation disorder that's helped me like not be so angry at the world. But I just don't think there's any room for that. Like, there's already so much anger in this world, right? And evil, and people that just are trying to destroy other people. Like, why not lift people up? Like, being human is hard,
Yeah, you're not wrong. Now we've got to get down to maybe the most important question we're going to ask you this whole show.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That's, when are you going to come back out here? Laura misses you.
I do miss you. I miss Tommy.
I want to.
I thought you were going to ask her something embarrassing about me. Okay.
No.
No, I totally would love to come out. I was like thinking like maybe sometime in December or October. I have my girls start competitive soccer this month, and they start school, and I have some other personal things that I'm going to that I have to conquer. And so that's what I was thinking, September or October.
That works. My house will be done by then.
That's true.
Oh, great. Yeah. Tommy will love to come and stay with you.
I know she would. I'm going to feed her cookies.
She has had some sugar. She doesn't really like it.
I do have a funny story. Do you remember when you came out last and I sent you home with Christmas cookies? The little white powdered sugar ones.
Yeah, it was all over my suitcase.
It didn't look like cookies anymore.
Really?
It was white powdered sugar everywhere.
That's funny.
I was like, oh, it's like cocaine that's all over my
You're really making some great
I'm
life
sober.
choices. Just instantly backfires.
Yeah.
It was a blonde moment. Laura, I would have to say, like, some of my finest memories are, like, we've had some good times. Las Vegas probably tops it all. And that's when I was, partaking and partying, and that was one of the funnest nights I've ever had.
It was fun, too. We won't go into a lot of detail, but it was probably one of my funnest nights, too.
But, like, it's like, but that's like, what life is about, right? Is like these laughs and like the family and like your love and like not judging people, and like, because we've all had our shit, right? Like, we all fucked up, and we've all like been down in the dumps, but like, how can we help each other out? And and just be an example to like help people be better people at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way to put it.
It is, yeah.
And I've always been that way too. I've had a lot of people tell me over the years that I'm too nice, and I do. I think sometimes I have a hard time setting boundaries with like maybe a lot of people that I would consider friends, but then I have to realize later on that maybe they weren't as good of a friend as I thought, and
sure.
and it kind of gets me taken advantage of. But that's a learning thing too. You know, we all make mistakes. Like
We
you
do.
said, don't judge people and try to be the best person and be kind, help other people.
Yeah, for sure. And like the thing is like what I've learned about being too kind, because I've been down that road, and putting in boundaries is like that comes from like a lack of self-love too, right? Like you're not standing up for who you are and what you need, and you're putting others in front of you. And if you're not mentally stable enough to like help others, and that's kind of a selfish move on your part, because you're just really like you don't have it in you to help them, first of all, and then you're just hindering your own life.
Yeah.
And so it really it's just really important to like really dive inside of who you are and really just do that inner work in order to like come out and help others. And that's what I chose. Like I didn't help anyone for like the first 2 years of getting sober, and I just really worked on myself. I mean, I was in therapy every week, and I did so much work. And so it's really important to really learn who you are and what you want to do in this world.
Yeah.
I
Who
agree.
you want to
Yeah.
be like when you grow up. Like, you know, figure it out at your 30s.
I'm still working on that one,
Yeah.
Nicole.
I know. I mean, I have an idea of like who I want to be, and like, and it's crazy that I'm still today like, oh, this is what I want. You know, I'm separated from the baby's dad now, and really figuring out like what relationships I want, and like what kind of person I want to be with, and what kind of person I want to be in a relationship, and those boundaries, right? And so it's like an everyday learning thing. The best thing I would have to say AA ever gave the advice is like one day at a time. You only have today, and you know, and you are as sick as your secrets, and so it goes. It's very interesting, like how much you just keep growing and growing once you start the healing process.
And I think it's important too to go along with that that you look at your little successes as wins. You know, if you woke up on time that morning and that's the one thing you did that's different than yesterday, then hell yeah.
Yeah.
Try to do it again tomorrow. If you don't, no big deal. Just try
Don't
to
beat
do it
yourself
again.
up.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up.
That's exactly like, so that's how like I put these little small wins in, you know, for all my clients, because like waking up early and then going to the gym, like it starts like changing your self-esteem about who you are. Like you start stacking these wins up, and then you're like, eventually over time you don't even notice how much you've actually changed, right? But these small wins add up to a really big change. And that's what is so important about changing your daily habits, and just, you know, waking up at the same time every day, eating, you know, a healthy diet, and working out, and just those three things, you know, and generally if you like intentionally set it up to do in the morning before anyone wakes up, like it gets done and you feel really good about yourself. Like I don't know anyone who regrets going to the gym. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody either be like, I just got back from the gym. That was a dumb idea.
Yeah.
I just need to tell myself to go.
Yeah.
Horrible idea.
There was like an MMA fighter or something that was talking about it, and they called it like the white belt mentality, where your first and biggest step is to just show up, and then what happens after that is you're already better off than you were. If we can just get to the gym, then at least we're there. And even if you just walk for 15 minutes, hey, that's more than you did before.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And like, so, you know, with each person, I really personalize to like their level of working out. Like, where are you? Like, obviously, I work out every day. You cannot do what I do. So like, you got to be honest with me, right? And like, what can you do for eating? And like, you know, and I love an 80-20 rule. Like, 80% of the time I eat extremely healthy, and I will go and have some ice cream or pizza. You know what I mean? I love to still feed my soul with some good food, but it's a matter of being disciplined enough to not always eat that food, and because it's really toxic for you, a lot of it, especially like all the processed food that's being made currently with all the seed oils and sugars being added. So but still, like, you got to still live life a little, right? You know, I've taken alcohol out of my life. I've taken, but, I'm going to enjoy some ice cream sometime.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Well,
And Reese's Pieces, those are kind of my downfall.
Reese's Pieces. Well, Nicole, I wanted to just thank you for being so willing to share your story with us and others. I think it's been inspirational. If there are women that are more interested in about your group, how can they find out?
I actually just got my website up at elevatewellnesslifecoach.com.
Okay.
Where you can follow, it is just a woman's page, but they can be added to my Elevated Wellness for Women's Facebook page.
Okay.
Or you can follow me on Instagram at Nicole Ristau or Facebook.
Okay.
Nicole Ristau.
It sounded like your toddler just threw something across the room back.
Did she throw the watermelon back at you?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It was so great to talk to you.
Yeah, it was. Appreciate you having you on, hon. I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
Yeah. And this has been the weekly InSalt.
Dude, great show.
Oh, Kurt's Corner. People are going to be mad.
Dude, this episode was brought to you by Kurt's Corner since it didn't have anything. I guess the whole episode has to be it.